Hello and welcome to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel, and in today's episode we'll be looking at the Holden Torana. Hello and welcome back. Now if you're new to Quartzlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, and indeed sometimes we go beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars, car brochures, looking back at memories and cars we remember, please consider subscribing. There may indeed be quite a few interesting episodes for you. Anyway, like I say, we do look at cars from around the world. Today we're going to Australia and the Holden Torana. So let's put that on the board and have a look at it now. So here is today's brochure for, as it says, the all-new Holden Torana, because this is actually a very early brochure. The Torana name was manufactured by Holden between 1967 and 1980. This is the first generation, and actually this is from 1967, from when it all began. The name Torana, interestingly, apparently, although I think this is quite unconfirmed, comes from the Aboriginal Australian language for fly. Although, like I say, I think that's a little bit unconfirmed, but I think that's what they was trying to say. The brochure itself is a little bit tatty on the front, a few little marks and little deteriorations here and there, but overall not bad to say it's from 1967. We also get a bit of a dealer stamp. Eagers Retail Pty Limited, Ann Street, and an unusual phone number, but I'm not sure where Ann Street is. But Eagers Retail, I don't know if this is true, but I've kind of like had a quick look and there's an Eagers Automotive, so I'm not sure if that actually may still be around in the automotive world. You'd have to confirm that for me that you're in Australia, and that would be interesting to know. Also interesting to know whereabouts it's referring to with Ann Street. Unusual that it isn't really a full address. We'll just turn to the back of the brochure, and on the back we get that dealer stamp again, although phone number seems to have the end of the stamp on there as well. But what I was going to show you is right at the bottom here. It says copyright General Motors Holden Sales Pty Limited, and a little stamp GMH, meaning General Motors Holden, and the date is there 5/67, so May 67. So like I say, right at the start of that Torana name. Unusual brochure design as we move to the front cover again. We've got this strange just like ghostly figures there. Like I said, the all new Holden Torana, as it would have been a new car at the time. The top here it says The Great Escape. Let's just zoom in a little bit further on the car on the front cover. The first generation Torana. Before the days of using big 6-cylinder engines, we're only allowed small 4-cylinder engines at this time. But if you're not familiar with the Torana, and me as a European, as somebody who was brought up in England, not particularly familiar with the Torana name, you certainly will be thinking, oh, but that looks like it's Vauxhall Viva, isn't it? So Vauxhall Viva HB, different grille and lights granted, but you'll certainly see them lines of a Viva, and certainly from the back immediately you can see Vauxhall Viva in there. Anyway, let's open the brochure up and have a look inside. So as we open the brochure, one thing we note with this brochure is very wordy, so I'm not sure I'm going to read the entire text for this. It is a very wordy brochure, but some wonderful images, starting here on the left hand side, where it continues using that Great Escape line. So the Great Escape Torana, sporty new leader of the low price field, a beautiful break with the past. And then we get a bit of 60s fashion and hairstyle, and then we can look on the right hand side, some of those images of the Torana, looking at that Torana name and script on the back and the side, showing the S and the SL. And then if we move to the right hand side of the brochure, Then we get this sort of interesting image of this blue example and the family, but you'll notice only a two-door car, so not exactly an ideal family transport. Let's have a look at some of the text now. It starts by telling us to call the Holden Torana new, different, exciting is something of an understatement. Torana is all these things, of course, but it is much more than that. No other car in the low price field rides like Torana. No other car handles like it, and more surely of all, no other car looks like it. Torana is not just another car model, it's a completely new car, yet in its own special way. And because it's every inch a Holden, it has all the proven virtues traditionally associated with Australia's own car. Things like stamina, engineering, integrity, all-round value and complete suitability for Australia. There are three Torana models, the Torana Sedan, Torana S and the top of the line Torana SL, which stands for super luxury apparently, so presumably the S on the Torana S is just for super. The differences are chiefly in furnishings and equipment, because they're all using the same engine basically. All three have the same sporty lines, the same exciting performance, the same generous room for passengers and luggage. And like I said, this is just a small 4-cylinder engine at this time, so I'm not sure about exciting performance, to be honest. Study the catalogue, talk to your Holden dealer and accept his invitation to drive a sporty new Torana. As soon as you do, you'll see why we're calling Torana the great escape in low price motoring. And then I've just moved into the main image there, straight into the Holden grill there, so with the Holden badge at the side there, little Torana script. I believe that's an S badge, so I think this is the middle one of the trim levels, the S by looks of it. But certainly when you move down the back to the side, you can certainly see Vauxhall Viva, can't you? Anyway, let's turn the page. So we turn the page, the heading this time, again using that Great Escape Torana, tells us the new getaway performance. Road hugging ride with wide track and full coil suspension. Let's have a look at some of the text, although like I said, it does get quite wordy in this brochure. So the text tells us the promise of action in Torana's sporty appearance is immediately fulfilled when you take the wheel. Power to weight ratio is particularly favourable, and Torana's 70.7 cubic inch engine delivers a smooth and effortless performance. So it's, I don't know, did they write the engine sizes like this? It's a little bit different than what we're used to in Europe, certainly. So 70.7 cubic inch engine really sounds bigger than it is, really. So roughly a 61 cubic inch engine would be a 1 litre engine. So what they were using in these Toranas was a 1159cc 4-cylinder engine. So like I say, only a small engine really for Australia. It wasn't until we got like the second generation Toranas when we started getting bigger 6-cylinder engines. So I don't know if this felt a little bit small really for Australian conditions, but anyway, that's beside the point. It continues by telling us the effortless performance that puts many more expensive cars to shame. It is quiet, beyond anything you've imagined in a low price car. Acceleration is vivid, cruising speed impressively high, stability at speeds outstanding. They're really going to town on this, aren't they, to say it's just a Vauxhall Viva. You can drive Torana harder and faster than most cars on winding roads or under difficult road conditions. One thing we have to remember, of course, this is 1967, so for 67 it actually probably felt like quite a nice car to drive for what was quite a small car in Australia. So it continues on, a similar sort of vein by telling us things like perfect weight distribution, rack and pinion steering, turning circle of 32 feet, big brakes, front discs optional, And then Torana's racing style, 4 on the floor, gear shift, synchro mesh the whole way through. Then continues and goes on to talk that you can get an automatic transmission for a small extra price, and then economy, up or down from 40 miles per gallon depending on how you drive. That's a nice way to put it, isn't it? Just in case you're not getting them figures. And then it ends by telling us, drive Torana, you'll soon see what we mean. We get some interesting images there. Top one, the Torana at speed, and then we glimpse on the inside there is the manual gear lever, and then on the right hand side of the page there is a red example. And then moving the brochure along, it starts talking about the smooth and flexible 3-speed automatic transmission, so optional on all Torana models, and a look there at the 2-pedal layout and the automatic lever. So when we turn the page, we get a first glimpse of the rear of these early Toranas, and like I say, really see that Viva look from the back. Also get some nice interior shots. This is going to be the S, so the spacious new comfort to match its sparkling good looks, the Torana S, although they're all using that same small engine. We'll have a look at some of the text, then we'll come back to these images. So the Holden Torana is styled to be admired inside and out, from every angle and in any company. There's a clean break from convention in those sleek, swashbuckling lines, a new space curve design. Magic mirror acrylic finish in glamorous colours provides comforting assurance that your Torana will stay bright and beautiful for years. Inside, you'll be amazed how much real room the new space curve design gives you. Upholstery is in soft, resilient Saddlin. Not sure what Saddlin is, and if you want to let me know, is that just another name for vinyl? Hopefully not, because I would imagine that would be horrendous in Australia. It tells us it's practical yet pleasing to the eye. Individual front seats, adjustable fore and aft, are shaped for back and side support. Seats tip forward for easy access to the rear compartment through extra wide doors. A built-in ventilation system and opening rear quarter windows ensures a fresh environment at all times, and even the driest outback roads will be no problem with Torana's efficient dust proofing. 16 cubic feet of boot space, it continues to tell us. All of it is usable. Lid is counterbalanced. Inside the car, a wide parcel shelf, front seat armrests, courtesy lights, coat hooks, ashtrays, dual padded sun visor, and many other items help to make life easy. There is also a full complement of safety features, which apparently are going to be described on page 11. And then the next page is going to be the top of the range SL. But let's have a look at some of these images. Overall, when we zoom into the main image, I've always liked the design of the Viva, and I like how the lines are. And simply, I do think it's quite an attractive car as a Torana. Subtle differences, of course, but from the rear, you can certainly see Viva, can't you? This example, white wall tyres, very nice. Looking on the inside, we can have a look at the seat design. Very simple though, and this is the days before Australia insisted you had head restraints by the looks of it. And this unusual material, Saddlin, like I said, I don't know what material that is. It does look very vinyl looking though, doesn't it? And then if we move on, well, this is a little bit of an arty shot looking at the boot design. A room in the boot apparently to fit a full drum set, apparently. Unusual choice to stick in the fuel cap at the rear, possibly not the safest design. And then it gives us a look at the door cards, and the final picture on here gives us a look at that steering wheel design. Unusual dash, I think that's obviously been changed around a bit, and sort of that strip speedo on there. So I turn the page and then that takes us to the top of the range version, the SL. Tells us it stands for super luxury in every beautiful detail. Let's have a look at some of the text, come back to some of these interesting images. It tells us just look at this low slung streamlined beauty and know it's yours. Gives you a feeling of pride and pleasure that matches in every way the joys of driving it. Viewed from the outside, the car proclaims its individuality with special SL grille, exciting metallic colours, special SL side flash badges and bright rear mouldings, and by a distinctive full-length gold line. Each side. Fortunately it's on each side. It would be really silly if it was just on one side, wouldn't it? You can also order a handsome vinyl covered roof. Inside there's more richness and luxury than you'd find in many cars at twice the price. Take the upholstery. To start with, it's specially styled in sumptuous morocco, perforated for warm weather comfort. Again, I'm not sure what morocco is. And you can choose from an exciting range of high fashion colours. Bucket seats in front are thickly padded and carefully contoured. The advanced concept of personal seating extends to the rear compartments, where backrests are shaped to simulate individual seats, giving superior comfort and support. Extra soundproofing and plush pile wall-to-wall carpeting contribute to the car's uncanny silence. Wood grain inlays on the glove box lid, beneath the instrument panel and on the steering wheel provide a unique touch of opulence. And the excellent range of equipment includes an efficient heater, demister, lockable glove box, luggage boot lights and many more useful features. Torana SL is in every way a beautifully different car, a car you'll be proud to be seen in anywhere. So the dash is interesting anyway, but made even more interesting with this unusual wood grain inlays on that glove box, steering wheel and in front of the driver as well, so that's certainly very unusual. Seats and door cards do look a lot nicer, although still no head restraints. And then we look at the rear seats and we get what it's talking about with all sorts of individual sort of design to the rear seats. Again, not sure about this material, morocco in black as well, so it does tell it's perforated, but it looks like another material that might get particularly warm in the Australian climate. Main image of the SL, like I said, SL badging on that front grille. This one does look like it's got the optional vinyl roof by the looks of it. Overall, quite an attractive looking car in this top trim. And the next image is rather a haunting looking image of these two in the rain. So these final inner pages. So I'll start talking about sort of like servicing, I guess. Okay, telling you how fantastic it is. Of course, like every Holden Torana was fully proven by the GMH engineers the long way, the hard way, the right way before regular production began at the GMH proving grounds at Lang, Victoria. Drivers worked around the clock to run up an equivalent of more than 500,000 miles under conditions far tougher than you'll ever likely to meet. Prototypes were built, tested, taken apart, modified and retested apparently. Goes on to tell us there's another big advantage to get with Torana: expert service with the Australian dealer network. Unusual images. Obviously this is a bit of an image of where they're testing, although this little image looks like it's just been superimposed on this sort of background. I guess this is trying to show us that it can drive up to a 15.5% hill for whatever reason. I guess this image is showing it being tested in rugged conditions, although it doesn't quite look right, does it? It's almost like too clean and too shiny, like it's been either coloured in afterwards or sort of like superimposed on that background. I'm not sure. And then the final image is this particular Torana throwing up a bit of dust, I guess. So as promised, on page 11 it does start talking about safety. Lap and sash front seat belts, anchorage points all ready for rear seat belts, anti-burst door locks, padded instrument panel, padded collapsible sun visors, shatter-proof interior rear view mirror, outside rear view mirror to eliminate blind spots, zone toughened windscreen. Even if it shatters, you can always see to bring the car to a safe halt. Windshield washers and electric wipers for a clear view in all weathers. Non-reflecting instrument panel and wiper blade arms. Dished steering wheel. Backing lights go on automatically when you engage reverse gear. Safety catches to prevent front seats tipping forward under hard braking. And positive crankshaft, or crankcase I should say, ventilation. A little bit of 60s fashion drawing off that safety belt, but you know, safety, the list of safety equipment has certainly changed vastly from what it was showing us in the 60s to what it does today, of course. And then finally on the back page it says Torana, the facts and figures, so the specifications, and then it starts showing us some accessories. So let's have a quick look at some of these specs and then we'll finish with the accessories. So it starts giving some mechanical information on the engine there, telling us maximum brake horsepower is 56.2 at 5400 RPM. And then the engine features, so it's an OHV inline engine, free bearing crankshaft, and then continue going into quite a lot of detail. You always notice with the earlier brochures, particularly like 50s and 60s brochures, they go into a lot of mechanical detail, which I guess shows how people in the 50s and 60s were much more mechanically inclined than they were in the 70s and 80s as this information starts reducing. I'm not going to read it all out, but you know, if you do want to pause the screen, you can read it all yourself. I'm just going to move the camera now if you do want to pause the screen. As we move the camera down, it continues in the same sort of vein, tell us more information there. So again, you can pause that screen if you do want to read all that out. It then goes on to tell us about the clutch, the fuel system, the lubrication, the electrical, which is 12 volt transmission, manual like we talked about, floor mounted, 4 forward gears, all synchromesh. We can also have the optional automatic transmission as well. Brakes, standard setup is actually a 4-wheel drum setup, but when we look at the other side, it does tell us we can have a power assisted front disc brakes optional on all models, which I'm sure would have been a good option to go for. Suspension, front independent short and long arm type with coil springs and rubber stops. Ball jointed steering knuckles. Rear 4-link type with rubber bushed suspension arms and coil springs. Hydraulic double acting telescopic shock absorbers front and rear. It goes on to talk about the rear axle and the different ratio for the automatic, steering, rack and pinion, the wheel and tyre sizes, white wall tyres optional, and then information about the lighting, the dimensions and the instrument panel, and then the equipment levels. We've kind of like talked about it a little bit in the brochure, so I'm not going to go through it all, but of course you can pause the screen if you want to read it all yourself. So this is what all models have, and then this is what the S model adds onto that, and then finally what the top of the range Torana SL has with things like that wood grain finish. And then what we can have as optional equipment, so that automatic, which we've talked about, and those front wheel disc brakes, which we've talked about, and indeed the white wall tyres, which we've discussed. We also can have black trim for the SL model and two-tone exterior paint treatments for the S and SL, and we can have vinyl roof for the SL. Tells us the GMH warranty protects your Torana for 12 months or 12,000 miles. In addition, the GMH Guardian maintenance plan provides a free inspection and adjustment of your car by the GMH dealer at 1,000 and 2,000 miles. A little bit about confidential hire purchase. Arrangements are available throughout Australia through General Motors Acceptance Corporation. Facilities are only available through GMH dealers. And then finally, your accessories. Main image showing the accessory as being a radio, but it goes on to tell us, as well as having the manual radio and the push button radio, you can have rear seat belts, power brakes, cigarette lighter, rear and or front mud flaps, sleeve exhaust tailpipe, motorless heater demister, which is standard on the SL, a high note horn, dual horns on the SL, a rear compartment lamp, which is standard on the SL, internal anti-glare rear vision mirror, external passenger side rear view mirror, sunshade, wheel trims, Venetian blind, or Venetian shade I should say, obviously ways to keep your Torana cooler, petrol locking cap, hood lock, number plate frames, rear wheel shields, water temperature gauge, standard on the SL, and a weather shield. And then finally it says, see us for the keys of your Torana. I feel we may be a few decades too late for that, but there is that dealer stamp again. And then finally at the bottom, as we showed you at the start of the show, the date there for 5/67, and a little bit of a code there, A522. So there we go, the very early Holden Torana. I guess we should look at the big engine Toranas at some point, but there it is, this first generation model. If you remember these, if you've driven in these, if you friend took you for a drive in one once, let me know in the comments. They're always really interesting to read, and so also let me know how they held up to those Australian conditions. But thank you so much for watching today. We'll end by saying thank you so much for watching Quarterlight today. If you've not done already, please consider liking and subscribing. It is all completely free, and we'll end with a couple of boxes there. They're for other episodes. If you click on, you can watch other episodes, or indeed just look for us on our homepage where there's almost 500 videos now. But thank you so much for watching today. Please do take care. We'll see you very soon, and goodbye.